Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we slice through the noise and get straight to the most profound insights.
Absolutely. We're aiming for clarity today.
And, there's one universal constant that touches every single one of us. The relentless march of time.
Mm-hmm.
And with it, the inevitable process we call aging.
That's a huge topic.
And it really is.
Yeah.
It's the journey we all embark on, but it's often shrouded in worry, right? And myths, countless misconceptions.
So much misinformation out there.
Exactly. So today, our core mission is to peel back those layers.
Yeah.
We want to truly unpack what aging fundamentally is.
And why it matters so much for our health.
Yes. And crucially, what the very latest cutting-edge science suggests we can actually do about it.
Moving beyond the hype.
Right. We're here to offer you a fresh, evidence-based perspective. And to guide us through this really intricate landscape, we've been immersing ourselves in the transformative work of a leading researcher, Dr. Manuel Serrano.
A key figure in the field.
His insights are truly at the forefront of understanding this whole complex biological process.
That's absolutely right. And when you're tackling something as personal and pervasive as aging, it's just so important to separate the solid scientific fact from, speculation.
Hopeful thinking sometimes.
Exactly. Hopeful, but maybe not fully backed up yet. So our deep dive today is really anchored in the expertise of Dr. Manuel Serrano. He's a truly remarkable and highly respected figure.
And his background is interesting too, isn't it? He didn't always focus solely on aging.
That's right. His journey is quite insightful. For many years, starting back in 2003, he was leading significant cancer research. That was at the Centro Nacional de Investigaciones Oncológicas in Madrid.
Major institution.
A very major one. But then in 2017, he made this really pivotal shift, strategic move, you could say.
Okay.
He transitioned his focus specifically to aging research. Now he's at the Institute for Biomedical Research, the IRB, in Barcelona.
So cancer to aging, that's a fascinating jump.
It is, but there are deep connections, biologically speaking. And his background is broad. He also did crucial postdoctoral work in the U.S., which, really broadens your scientific perspective.
Right, seeing different approaches.
Precisely. And just to give you a sense of his standing, his work isn't just published widely. It's been explicitly cited by, for example, a really prominent Harvard researcher.
Wow. Okay.
So that really speaks to his credibility, and the impact he's having on how we understand cells biology and aging itself.
Okay, so let's unpack this foundational concept then, because you hear so many different ideas floating around.
Mm-hmm.
Some people almost talk about aging as if it's a disease. Is that how science sees it? How does Dr. Serrano define it?
Yeah, that's a really critical starting point. And Dr. Serrano is exceptionally precise here. He states quite unequivocally, aging is not a disease in itself.
Not a disease, okay.
No. Instead, he defines it as a situation of risk.
A situation of risk. What does that mean exactly?
Think of it like this. It's a state of vulnerability almost, something that builds up, it accumulates within our bodies over time.
Right.
And this accumulation makes us progressively more susceptible to all sorts of different health problems, different maladies. He uses a really helpful analogy. Smoking.
Okay.
Smoking itself isn't lung cancer, obviously, but it is, without any doubt, the single biggest risk factor for getting lung cancer.
Right. It dramatically increases your chances.
Exactly. And in a very similar way, aging acts as the overarching risk factor for almost every single chronic disease you can think of.
So more fundamental than, say, diet or genetics even.
Well, he really emphasizes this hierarchy of risk. Look, our habits like diet and exercise, they absolutely play a role, a crucial one.
Sure.
And our genetics, they definitely contribute to our individual risk profile, no question.
Mm.
But when you objectively stack them all up, age emerges as the undeniable primary driver. It actually overshadows all the others.
Overshadows, wow.
Yes, as the most significant contributor to nearly every major illness we face as we live longer. Cancer, heart disease, neurodegeneration. Age is the biggest risk factor.
That really reframes things, doesn't it? It's not just one factor among many, it's the factor.
It fundamentally changes how we should think about health and preventing disease long term.
So if it's this situation of risk that builds over time, does that mean it's just inevitable? Like a one-way street towards decline we can't influence?
That's the next critical piece. And honestly, it's where the research gets incredibly exciting. This is one of the biggest shifts in understanding over the last, say, 15 or 20 years.
Okay.
So Dr. Serrano confirms, yes, aging is not avoidable. We can't just stop time. We can't prevent any biological changes from happening.
Right. Time marches on.
But, and this is the really profound insight, it is absolutely modifiable.
Modifiable, meaning we can change its course. slow it down.
Precisely. We can influence the rate and the way we age. This idea alone just transforms the whole perspective, doesn't it? From just accepting it to actively engaging with it.
It really does.
Yeah.
So what's the evidence for that? How do we know it's modifiable?
The evidence is incredibly compelling, especially from decades of animal studies. Researchers have done extensive work, for instance, with mice.
Why mice?
Well, they're mammals, like us. They share a lot of genetic and physiological similarities, so they're very relevant models for human biology.
Okay.
And in these mouse studies, researchers have shown quite demonstrably that aging can be delayed. It can even be advanced experimentally
Right.
through various interventions.
Hmm.
For example, specific genetic tweaks in mice have shown, frankly, astonishing results, sometimes extending their healthy lifespan by 30 or even 40%.
30 or 40%, that's huge.
It's enormous, but it's not just genetics. Carefully controlled nutritional changes, things like reducing calories or specific fasting schedules, these have also produced dramatic improvements in health markers and significantly longer healthy lives in these animals.
So not just living longer, but living better for longer.
Exactly. That's the key distinction. And there are also some pharmacological approaches, certain drugs tested in animals, that show promise in modulating the aging process too.
Okay, but you mentioned genetic manipulation. That's not something we can do in humans right now, is it?
No, absolutely not. Complex genetic engineering to delay human aging isn't feasible, nor is it the immediate goal for clinical use. That's very important to clarify.
Right.
But the fact that we can make such profound changes to the aging trajectory in mammals like mice, using these different methods, genetic, nutritional, drugs, it powerfully underlines that aging isn't some fixed, rigid clock.
It's flexible.
It's surprisingly flexible. It's a dynamic system that can be influenced. And that core knowledge, that's the foundation for thinking about future ways to improve human health.
That's incredibly hopeful.
Okay.
A massive paradigm shift, really. The idea that aging itself is modifiable. It changes everything.
It does.
So let's dig into why. Why are scientists like Dr. Serrano dedicating their lives to this? This is where it gets really interesting, I think. Because when you hear aging research, your mind immediately jumps to certain things, right? Popular ideas.
Immortality, usually.
Exactly. Are these researchers trying to make us live forever? Or is it just about, extending lifespan as long as possible? Or maybe even just getting rid of wrinkles? What's the real driver here?
Yeah, it's so important to clear up those myths straight away because they often miss the point of the actual science. Dr. Serrano is crystal clear about this.
Okay.
His motivation and the driving force for his team is absolutely not the pursuit of immortality. It's not just living longer for the sake of extra years, and it's definitely not primarily about preventing wrinkles.
Okay, good to know. Though fewer wrinkles wouldn't be bad.
Haha, no. And he acknowledges that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look good, of course. That's a perfectly normal human desire. But it's just not the scientific objective here.
So what is the objective?
The true goal, the much more impactful goal, is to gain a really deep, precise understanding of the specific biological changes that happen in our bodies as we age.
The underlying mechanics.
Exactly, because those are the changes that lead to that significantly higher risk of developing very specific, often debilitating diseases.
Which diseases are we talking about?
We're talking about a whole spectrum of serious conditions. Things like various cancers, neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's.
Major challenges.
Huge challenges. And also widespread degenerative diseases affecting our vital organs. Think renal failure, kidney fibrosis, hepatic failure in the liver, pulmonary failure like lung fibrosis, atherosclerosis, the hardening of our arteries.
So the big chronic diseases that really impact quality of life later on.
Precisely. These are the conditions that, more than anything, steal people's quality of life, rob them of their independence, and ultimately are the major causes of death globally.
Okay.
So the ultimate aim is clear. If we can profoundly understand these underlying aging processes.
And then maybe we can intervene.
Exactly. Then researchers hope to develop completely new, much more effective ways to treat these specific diseases. Diseases that right now often lack really good treatments.
So it's about treating disease, not aging itself.
Dr. Serrano sees treating these specific age-related diseases as a much more accessible goal, something potentially achievable within his professional lifetime.
Right.
Compared to the incredibly complex, maybe even futuristic idea of treating aging as a whole, that's seen as a very, very long-term project.
So for you listening, This research isn't about chasing some fountain of youth. It's about tackling the real diseases that make getting older difficult.
It's about improving health span, making those later years healthier and more functional.
And you mentioned something fascinating earlier,
You think?
this common cause idea.
Ah, yes, the common cause principle. This is potentially revolutionary for medicine. The idea is that many of these seemingly different age-related diseases, lung problems, kidney issues, heart disease, they might actually share deeply connected underlying causes.
Rooted in aging itself.
Exactly. Rooted in the fundamental processes of aging. The way cells age in the lung or the kidney or the liver, there are often shared molecular and cellular mechanisms, common principles at play.
So, what does that mean for treatment?
It means, potentially, that by targeting these shared underlying aging mechanisms, we might develop therapies that could help with multiple diseases at the same time.
Wow. One treatment hitting several targets.
Imagine, instead of needing a separate drug for heart disease, another for kidney disease, maybe one approach that addresses a core aging process could offer benefits for both, or even for neurodegenerative conditions, too.
That would be transformative, a truly strategic approach.
It's a very powerful idea for the future of medicine, focusing on the roots, not just the branches.
Okay, that common cause principle really clicks. Instead of just reacting to individual diseases, you go deeper. So if aging is this situation of risk, increasing vulnerability, what is actually happening inside us at the cell level? What are these core mechanisms Dr. Serrano's team is zeroing in on?
Right, getting into the how, one of the absolute central mechanisms that his team, and really a large part of the aging research community, is intensely focused on, is the role of senescent cells.
Senescent cells, okay, what are those?
You can think of them as damaged cells, or sometimes people call them zombie cells, which is quite descriptive, actually.
Zombie cells, why?
Because they're essentially cells that have stopped dividing and doing their normal job properly, but they also resist dying and being cleared away by the body. They just sort of linger.
So they're not dead, but they're not really functional either, and they stick around.
Exactly. And worse, they're metabolically active and they secrete a cocktail of harmful substances that can damage the surrounding healthy tissue.
Okay, that sounds bad. How does that relate to aging?
Well, normally, especially when we're young, our bodies are incredibly good at finding and eliminating these damaged or dysfunctional cells. It's a constant cleanup process, vital for keeping tissues healthy, preventing cancer, keeping everything running smoothly.
Makes sense. Cellular housekeeping.
Precisely. But a key finding in aging research is that as we get older, this natural cleanup process becomes less efficient. It slows down.
So the zombie cells start to pile up.
That's exactly what happens. These senescent cells accumulate in our tissues and organs over time.
And is there proof this accumulation is actually harmful?
Yes, there's now really significant and growing evidence showing that this buildup of damaged cells is at least partly responsible for aging across the whole body, systemic aging, and also for the aging and dysfunction of specific organs.
Can we measure them? See them?
We can. The methods are always improving, but yes, scientists can now detect and measure senescent cells in tissues. And what they consistently find is that their numbers are way up in almost all age-related diseases.
So if you look at tissue from someone with, say, lung fibrosis,
You'll find it's loaded with senescent cells. Same for arthritic joints, atherosclerotic plaques, many other conditions.
so the hypothesis is these accumulating cells are a major driver of these diseases.
That's the compelling hypothesis, yes, that the accumulation itself is a core risk factor. Because these cells aren't just sitting there passively. As I said, they release inflammatory signals, enzymes that break down tissue. They actively create a toxic environment.
Like bad apples spoiling the barrel, but actively throwing out poison.
That's a very good analogy. They actively degrade the tissue around them. That's what Dr. Serrano's team and others have found. They're key drivers of aging and disease.
That's a powerful explanation. Stuck in dysfunction, actively causing problems. So the next obvious question is, where do they come from? What causes a cell to become senescent in the first place? Why do they start accumulating?
Excellent question. And it's not just one thing. There are multiple sources of damage that can push a cell into this senescent state. Dr. Serrano's work highlights several key culprits.
Okay, like what?
One major one is actually related to cellular metabolism, especially dealing with an excess of nutrients or just eating too constantly.
Eating too much or too often. How does that cause cell damage?
Well, think about it. Our bodies evolved over long periods where food wasn't always available 24/7. Constant eating, grazing all day, or just consuming excessive calories, it essentially overworks our cellular machinery.
Like running an engine too hard, too long.
Kind of. Processing all those nutrients generates metabolic byproducts, oxidative stress. It's a form of wear and tear at the cellular level that leads to damage.
So periods without food might be good, like fasting.
There's growing and really compelling evidence that periods without food, what we call fasting, are beneficial. During fasting, the body shifts gears. It goes from growth mode into repair and maintenance mode.
Cleaning house.
Exactly. Processes like autophagy get activated, where cells recycle damaged parts, clear out junk proteins. This helps prevent cells from becoming senescent in the first place. Constant eating basically keeps this cleanup system switched off.
That makes evolutionary sense. Constant food is a very modern thing.
Very modern. Our biology hasn't fully caught up. Another really significant cause is telomere shortening.
Telomeres. Those are the caps on the ends of chromosomes, right?
That's them. Think of the plastic tips on your shoelaces. Telomeres protect the ends of our chromosomes, where our DNA is stored.
And how do they relate to senescence?
They act like a counter. Every time a cell divides for growth, repair, anything, a tiny piece of the telomere gets lost. It naturally shortens.
Why does that happen?
It's actually a built-in safety mechanism against cancer. It limits how many times a cell can divide, preventing runaway growth.
Okay, limit on divisions. But what happens when we live longer?
Well, over a long life, with countless cell divisions, these telomeres eventually get too short, critically short.
And then?
When they get too short, the cell interprets it as severe DNA damage. The chromosome ends are basically exposed, and that damage signal is a powerful trigger for the cell to enter senescence. Stop dividing, become one of those zombie cells.
Wow. So just the process of living and dividing cells eventually leads to this signal.
It's a major contributor, yes. So you have damage from metabolic overload and damage from telomeres reaching their limit. Both pathways lead to senescent cells.
Are there other causes too?
Oh, yes. Dr. Serrano also mentions damage from external sources. Think toxins in the environment, pollution, smoke, maybe even too much sun exposure. These can directly damage cells and DNA.
Makes sense.
And also things like persistent infections, bacterial or viral. They cause chronic stress and inflammation, which can also push cells towards senescence as the body tries to cope.
Okay, so multiple hits leading to these problematic cells accumulating. And does this internal stuff connect to what we see on the outside? Like wrinkles?
Absolutely. It connects directly. The accumulation of these senescent cells disrupts the healthy environment around the cells. Specifically, it messes with the extracellular matrix.
The what now?
The extracellular matrix, like the scaffolding, the support structure between cells, made of proteins like collagen and elastin, the stuff that keeps skin firm and bouncy.
Ah, collagen and elastin, got it.
Senescent cells don't maintain this matrix properly. Even worse, they often secrete enzymes that actively break down healthy collagen and elastin nearby.
So they're wrecking the support structure.
Exactly. Which leads to tissues becoming less elastic, more rigid, and contributes directly to things like wrinkles and sagging skin. It's the internal damage manifesting externally.
That's truly eye-opening, seeing how the microscopic connects to the macroscopic signs of aging.
Yeah.
So the big question then, what does this all mean for you, for the listener? Moving from the theory to the practical, what can we actually do based on Dr. Serrano's research and recommendations to, well, delay this process, improve our health?
Right, the actionable insights. Dr. Serrano boils it down to 3 main categories, and he's quite clear about the strength of the evidence for each.
Okay, what's number 1? The most proven.
Number 1, and the area with the most robust demonstration, is dietary modification.
Diet. Okay, what specifically?
The core principle is surprisingly simple. Try to reduce your overall calorie intake, and, equally important, space out your meals. Don't eat constantly.
So intermittent fasting comes in here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not as some fad, but as a strategy with growing scientific backing. The idea is to avoid grazing all day. You want to create a significant window, a minimum of maybe 12 to 14 hours, between your last meal of one day and your first meal of the next.
12 to 14 hours. So finish dinner at 7 p.m., don't eat again until 7 a.m. or 9 a.m. the next day, no snacks.
That's the basic idea. Gives your body that crucial break from digestion to focus on repair.
And the evidence supports this.
Yes, quite strongly. In mice studies, both reducing total calories and intermittent fasting show clear benefits for health and slowing aging markers. Combining them seems even better.
What about in people?
There's good human data, too. There's a significant U.S. study where people cut calories by just 20% for 2 years. They showed clear, measurable health improvements, even without strict fasting.
20% reduction. That's
Yeah.
noticeable, but maybe doable for many.
And there are also clinical studies, especially in people who are obese or diabetic, showing that several months of structured intermittent fasting leads to real metabolic benefits, better insulin sensitivity, weight management.
How does Dr. Serrano do it himself? Does he skip breakfast?
His preference, personally, is often to have an early dinner and then skip breakfast, essentially eating his first meal around lunchtime. But he really stresses adapting it to your life. Find a schedule that works for you consistently.
Right, sustainability is key. What about longer fasts, like 24 or 48 hours?
For generally healthy people, Dr. Serrano notes the evidence isn't really there yet to say those longer fasts offer additional overall health benefits beyond regular intermittent fasting. They can also be harder to do safely.
But there's an exception, right? You mentioned chemotherapy.
Ah, yes, a very important and powerful exception. For chemotherapy patients, research is showing that fasting for 24 to 48 hours right before and during the chemo infusion can significantly reduce the treatment's toxicity.
How does that work?
It's clever biology. Fasting puts your healthy cells into a temporary protective state, almost like hibernation. They slow down their division. Chemotherapy targets rapidly dividing cells.
Like cancer cells.
Exactly. So the healthy cells become less vulnerable while the cancer cells remain targets. It seems to protect the patient while potentially making the chemo more effective against the cancer. Really promising.
That's fascinating. What about specific diets? Paleo, vegan, keto, high protein?
He's more cautious there. While parts of those diets might be beneficial, the long-term evidence in humans for their overall impact on aging as complete dietary patterns is much weaker, more speculative.
So back to basics.
Pretty much. His general advice is common sense. Focus on fresh, whole, unprocessed foods. Avoid the obvious culprits, sugary drinks, pastries, highly processed stuff. He jokes that the complexity of human diets makes it a nightmare for researchers.
I can imagine. Does he share any other personal habits?
Well, he walks to work about 30 minutes each way, so an hour of moderate activity daily.
Build right into his routine.
Yes. And as we said, skips breakfast and often has a very light lunch, maybe just a sandwich and some fruit. He finds it helps his productivity, avoids that afternoon slump you get after a heavy meal.
Practical tips grounded in science. Okay, that's a lot on diet. What's the second category of action?
The second category is moderate physical exercise.
Moderate exercise. Now, does this extend lifespan like the diet changes potentially can?
That's where it's considered more speculative for directly increasing maximum lifespan. The evidence isn't as strong as for diet in that specific regard. However, the overall health benefits, they are absolutely undeniable and incredibly well documented.
So it's more about quality of life, health span.
Exactly. It's profoundly about living better. Regular moderate exercise boosts your metabolism, helps maintain independence as you age, and crucially, it fights sarcopenia.
Sarcopenia, that's muscle loss, right?
Yes, the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. It's a huge factor in loss of mobility and quality of life for older adults. Exercise directly combats that.
What does moderate mean in practice? Are we talking marathon training?
No, definitely not. Dr. Serrano gives practical examples. Walking briskly for an hour, or maybe running steadily for 30 minutes, things that are accessible.
Accessible and consistent.
Right. In fact, she cautions against extremes, things like ultramarathons or really intense, high-impact training. He suggests those can actually be damaging over the long haul.
Damaging. How?
Too much extreme stress can cause excessive oxidative damage, chronic inflammation, wear and tear on joints, potentially even accelerating some aspects of aging. Counterproductive if long-term health is the goal.
So it's not no pain, no gain. There's a sweet spot.
There really seems to be a sweet spot. So for you listening, it's not about becoming a gym warrior. It's about finding ways to build more movement into your day. Take the stairs. Walk instead of driving short trips. Regular walks. Consistent, moderate engagement.
That's encouraging. Makes it feel more achievable. Okay, diet, exercise.
Yeah.
What's the third piece? You said it was maybe the most surprising.
The third category is one Dr. Serrano admits is the hardest to study with strict scientific rigor, but the observational evidence is strong and the impact seems profound, cultivating a satisfactory social life.
Oh, social life. How does that fit in with cellular aging?
It's fascinating, isn't it? What large studies consistently show is a strong correlation. Older people who maintain active, meaningful social connections, friends, partners, pets, grandkids, community groups, they tend to have significantly better overall health and report a higher quality of life.
Okay, a correlation. But do we know why? What are the potential mechanisms?
While it's complex to pin down causality in a lab, the theories are compelling. People with strong social ties often practice better self-care. Maybe they're encouraged by others or feel more motivated.
Makes sense.
They might be more physically active, walking with friends, group activities. Their eating habits could be healthier, perhaps cooking and sharing meals instead of eating alone, which can sometimes lead to less nutritious choices.
And maybe stress reduction. Connection feels good.
Huge factor. Meaningful connection can lower stress hormones like cortisol, which we know can accelerate aging. It can boost beneficial chemicals like oxytocin. It provides cognitive stimulation, a sense of purpose, belonging, all powerful buffers against decline.
And the flip side, loneliness.
The flip side is stark. Studies clearly link chronic loneliness and social isolation to higher rates of cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, depression. Loneliness itself seems to promote inflammation in the body.
Wow. So connection is almost like a biological necessity.
It really appears to be fundamental to our well-being, influencing health right down to the cellular level. Now, Dr. Serrano adds a practical caveat.
Okay.
Be mindful of how you socialize. If all your social activities revolve around, say, overeating or heavy drinking, those habits might counteract the benefits.
Right. It needs to be a satisfying social life that actually supports your well-being.
Precisely. It highlights how holistic aging is. It's biology, yes, but it's also connection, purpose, community, our human needs.
That's a truly profound point. Health isn't just about the body in isolation. Okay, looking ahead now. This research on senescent cells is incredible. What's next? How do we turn this understanding into actual treatments for these age-related diseases? What's on the cutting edge?
Exactly. This is where the research gets really focused. Dr. Serrano's team and many others are intensely working on figuring out how to safely and effectively get rid of these damaged senescent cells.
Eliminating the zombie cells.
That's the goal. And this leads us to a whole new class of drugs being developed. They're called senolytics.
Senolytics. Lytics meaning to break down or destroy.
Precisely. These are drugs specifically designed to target and kill senescent cells, while ideally leaving healthy cells unharmed.
How do they compare to something like chemotherapy? Chemo kills cells too.
Dr. Serrano uses that comparison. Chemo targets rapidly dividing cells, like tumor cells. Senolytics are being engineered for much greater selectivity against senescent cells, which aren't necessarily dividing rapidly but have other unique vulnerabilities. The goal is efficacy against the target cells with minimal collateral damage to healthy ones.
That specificity is key. Is there evidence these drugs work?
In animal models, particularly mice, the results have been described as extraordinary.
Really? Like what?
In mice models of severe age-related diseases, lung fibrosis, kidney fibrosis, liver fibrosis, atherosclerosis, giving these experimental senolytic drugs has led to really significant improvements, often reversing some of the damage.
Reversing damage, not just slowing it down.
In some models, yes, they've seen reversal of pathology. Lungs scarred by fibrosis showed improved function. Kidney damage reduced, arterial plaques shrinking. It strongly suggests that clearing these cells can have a profound impact.
That's incredible. So where are we with human use?
This is the really exciting part. The very first senolytic therapies are currently in rigorous clinical trials in humans. Major trials are happening at places like the Mayo Clinic in the U.S.
Human trials are underway right now.
Yes, these are proper large-scale trials with control groups, placebos, the works. Dr. Serrano mentioned that initial results from some of these key trials are expected within about a year or so.
Wow, that's soon.
Relatively soon in drug development terms, yes. It shows the momentum in this field. He expressed genuine optimism, quite optimistic, were his words that targeted senolytic drugs for specific age-related degenerative diseases could be available for patients within the next 5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years. For diseases of the lungs, kidneys, liver, arteries. That would be game-changing.
Absolutely transformative for conditions where current options are often very limited.
Okay, that's incredibly exciting news. Drugs targeting the zombie cells.
Yeah, duh.
But I can hear a listener thinking, maybe worrying.
Let me guess. If there's a pill, will people stop trying with lifestyle?
Exactly. It's human nature, right?
Yeah.
Why bother with diet and exercise if you can just take a drug later?
It's a very valid concern, and Dr. Serrano makes a crucial distinction here. It's vital for healthy individuals, people without these major diseases. Maintaining health, preventing disease, that still absolutely relies on good lifestyle habits. Diet, exercise, social connection. Those are your primary tools for avoiding the buildup of senescent cells or helping your body clear them efficiently. Lifestyle is paramount for prevention and staying healthy.
So the drugs aren't meant for healthy people just to stay young?
No, not as currently envisioned. But for individuals who already have an existing disease, established kidney fibrosis, significant atherosclerosis, etc., the situation is different.
Oh, so.
While good habits might help slow things down, it's often very difficult, maybe impossible, to truly reverse advanced disease with lifestyle alone. That's where these targeted drugs, like senolytics, could be essential. They become a necessary tool for treatment, for potentially improving or even reversing the condition in people who are already sick.
So lifestyle for prevention, drugs potentially for treatment or reversal of existing conditions.
That's the key distinction. Of course, he acknowledges the human element. Some people might get treatment and still not change bad habits, like smokers who keep smoking even with lung disease.
Sure.
Science can offer powerful tools, but individuals still have agency over their choices. The drugs are aimed at treating disease, not replacing the foundations of healthy living for those who are well.
That clarity is so important. Prevention versus treatment. Okay, let's zoom out again. Big picture. All this research, these potential breakthroughs, does it ultimately mean we're all going to live much, much longer? Is that the end goal, extending lifespan indefinitely?
It's crucial to put longevity in context, and Dr. Serrano does this brilliantly. He points out something amazing we often forget. Human lifespan has already increased dramatically.
We live longer than ever before.
Dramatically longer. Think about this stat. Around the year 1900, in Europe, average life expectancy was only about 40 years.
40. Wow. It's hard to imagine.
By the year 2000, just 1 century later, it had soared to around 80 years. We effectively doubled human lifespan in 100 years.
But wasn't a lot of that due to fewer babies dying? Infant mortality.
That's the common counterargument. And yes, reduced infant and child mortality played a huge role, a vital role. But Dr. Serrano stresses, even when you factor that out, people genuinely aged and died much earlier back then. A 70-year-old today is generally far healthier, more active, more independent than a 70-year-old was 100 years ago. The whole aging trajectory has shifted.
We're not just living longer, we're living healthier longer already.
Exactly. And this allows him to debunk a common, rather grim myth.
Which is?
The idea that living longer just means dragging out a long period of decline and suffering. That extending life equals extending misery.
Yeah, you hear that concern.
He says that's simply false, based on the evidence. Look at people who live exceptionally long lives, like centenarians, those over 100. They typically maintain remarkable health, function, and autonomy until very, very late.
They don't spend decades being frail.
Generally, no. They experience what scientists call compressed morbidity. The period of significant illness or decline is squeezed into a much shorter time, right at the very end, a long, healthy life.
Compressed morbidity. That's a much more hopeful picture.
It absolutely is. So the real goal of this research isn't just tacking on extra years. It's profoundly about improving the quality of those later years.
Health span over lifespan, or at least health span within lifespan.
Precisely. Achieving a healthier old age, maintaining independence, vitality, well-being, the ability to engage with life fully for as long as possible. That's the true objective.
So, bringing it all home, what does this mean for you listening right now? If someone wants to take these insights and apply them today, what's Dr. Serrano's most concise, practical advice for living better, fostering that healthy aging?
His advice is remarkably straightforward, focusing on the areas with the most impact. First, eat a bit less. Be mindful of overall intake. Prioritize healthier, fresher foods. And crucially, maintain that time gap between meals, practice intermittent fasting consistently.
Okay. Eat less, eat better, give your body breaks.
Second, engage in moderate physical activity regularly. Move more. It doesn't have to be extreme. Consistent walking, maybe some running, taking stairs, just incorporating movement into your daily life is key for metabolic health, muscle, vitality.
Moderate, consistent movement. Got it.
And third, cultivate a satisfying social life. Actively make time for friends, family, community. Engage in activities you enjoy with others. Human connection is profoundly important for well-being.
Connection, but mindfully, right?
Yes. Remembering that caveat, ensure your social habits align with your health goals. Don't let socializing become an excuse for consistently unhealthy choices.
Eat less, move more moderately, connect meaningfully. Sounds simple, but clearly profound effects.
Grounded in the science, yes.
Those are truly powerful, practical takeaways. Diet, exercise, social connection, the pillars of healthier aging, it seems. Thank you so much for walking us through all this detail, for making Dr. Serrano's complex work so accessible. It's been a fantastic deep dive.
It's been a real pleasure. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Please.
We've talked about how life expectancy doubled in the last century, and how the focus now is shifting dramatically towards healthy aging, towards maintaining function and vitality much later in life. If that trend continues, propelled by the kind of research we discussed, what does that mean for society? How do our structures, our attitudes towards old age need to evolve? What opportunities and responsibilities does that create for individuals and communities if living a long, healthy, autonomous life becomes the norm, not the exception? It really invites us to rethink what a full life can look like, doesn't it, from start to finish?